I am Bruce Lee. The streets of old Kowloon were narrow and cramped, their blue stone slabs glistening with rain. Shenzhen's Zhongyi Martial Arts School was tucked away at the end of an alley. The paint on its lintel plaque was peeling, yet it still exuded an unyielding sense of righteousness. I pushed open the half-closed wooden door to find the training dummies in the courtyard toppled over. The usual shouts of disciples practicing at dawn had been replaced by a suffocating silence. "Xiaolong, you've arrived at last," Shenzhen greeted me, his eyes red-rimmed. His long robe was dust-streaked, evidence of a recent fight. From the inner room came the sound of coughing. The old master lay in bed, his face sallow, his breath weak. 3 days ago, someone ambushed Master, damaging his meridians. The school's treasure, the Soul of Martial Arts plaque, was stolen too. I frowned. The Soul of Martial Arts plaque was the symbol of Zhongyi School. Cast by a Qing dynasty martial arts master, it bore the school's unique heart method and represented the culmination of the old master's lifelong martial arts wisdom. Who did this? The Black Tiger Gang, Shenzhen ground out through his teeth. Their leader, Lei Shanhu, has long wanted to take over all martial arts schools in Kowloon. When Master refused to submit, he was attacked. Lei Shanhu has given an ultimatum. In 3 days, at the abandoned warehouse on Hungham Pier, I must bring the disciples to swear allegiance to him, or he'll burn Zhongyi School to the ground. I touched the nunchaku at my waist, my knuckles widening slightly. I had heard of Lei Shanhu before. He practiced the rigid, powerful black tiger fist, fought with ruthless ferocity, and commanded a band of desperados who had committed countless evils in Kowloon. He doesn't want your submission, he wants to destroy Zhongyi School's very foundation. That night, I practiced in the school's backyard. Under the moonlight, the nunchaku whirled in my hands, whistling through the air, its shadow a spinning wheel. I thought of my mother's teachings, of the true essence of Jeet Kune Do, using no way as way, having no limitation as limitation. Real martial arts were never about seeking dominance, they were about protecting what was worth cherishing. Just then, a faint rustle came from beyond the courtyard wall. I halted my movements and slipped behind a tree. 3 shadowy figures scaled the wall, short knives in hand, their footsteps light and agile, clearly trained fighters. Boss Lei said to crippled Shenzhen first, then make Bruce Lee back off, the lead figure whispered. I let out a cold laugh and stepped from behind the tree. If you want to touch my friend, you'll have to get through me first. The men were caught off guard, freezing for a moment before lunging at me with their knives. The first thrust straight for my chest. I dodged to the side, grabbed his wrist with my left hand, and drove my elbow into his ribs with my right. He grunted and fell to the ground. The second man attacked from the side, slashing at my neck. I leaned back to avoid the blade, then kicked him in the knee. He screamed and dropped to his knees, his knife clattering to the ground. Seeing this, the third man didn't dare underestimate me. He assumed the stance of Black Tiger Fist, his fists cutting through the air as he charged. Unflappable, I centered myself on Jeet Kune Do's centerline principle, evading his heavy punches while striking quickly at his face, chest, and abdomen. My fists were fast and precise, each blow landing on a vital point. He couldn't keep up with my attacks, and after just a dozen moves, he was forced to retreat again and again. What kind of unorthodox kung fu is this? He panted, terror in his eyes. This isn't unorthodox, it's Jeet Kune Do. I advanced step by step. The essence of martial arts is offense and defense, not showmanship. You serve an evil master and oppress the innocent. You have no right to speak of martial arts. With that, I delivered a side kick, sending him crashing to the ground. None of the 3 men could get up again. Shenzhen rushed over at the sound of the commotion. Seeing the men on the ground, his expression grew even graver. Lei Shanhu wants to wipe us out completely. I'll go with you to the meeting in 3 days. I patted his shoulder. We'll not only retrieve the Soul of Martial Arts plaque, but also teach him that true martial arts aren't built on tyranny. Over the next 2 days, I stayed at the school, guiding Chen Zhen and the disciples in their training. I taught them the simplicity and efficiency of Jeet Kune Do, how to quickly spot an opponent's weaknesses in combat, how to maximize power with minimal effort. Chen Zhen was highly perceptive and soon mastered the key points. The disciples' morale soared, and they vowed to stand against the Black Tiger Gang to the end. On the evening of the third day, the abandoned warehouse on Hung Hom Pier was brightly lit. Lei Shanhu stood waiting with dozens of his men, radiating murderous intent. A burly man with a face full of scars, he twirled the soul of martial arts plaque in his hand, his eyes venomous. Chen Zhen, if you know what's good for you, bring your disciples to swear allegiance. Otherwise, you'll all die here today. Lei Shanhu, you ambushed my master, stole the plaque, and committed countless evils. Today, I'll uphold justice on behalf of heaven. Chen Zhen roared, about to charge forward. I stopped him and stepped forward slowly. Boss Lei, the path of martial arts is to strengthen the body and protect the innocent, not to bully the weak and seek domination. A man like you is unworthy of the soul of martial arts plaque. Lei Shanhu sized me up and sneered. Bruce Lee? I heard you're invincible in Thailand. Today, I'll see if your kung fu is just empty fame. He waved his hand, and 5 burly men stepped forward, tall, muscular, the Black Tiger Gang's top fighters. Come at me all at once. Save us both the time, I assumed a Jeet Kune Do stance, my eyes sharp as blades. The 5 men exchanged glances and lunged at me simultaneously. Their fists and feet flew in a fierce onslaught, hoping to overwhelm me with numbers. But they didn't know that against absolute skill, numbers mean nothing. I moved among them with ghostly agility, striking with hands and feet, each blow precise and devastating. The man on the left threw a punch. I dodged and countered with a straight punch to his chin, knocking him unconscious instantly. The man on the right kicked at my waist. I grabbed his ankle and hurled him into an iron pillar, the impact echoing through the warehouse. The 3 men in front attacked together. Instead of retreating, I advanced, unleashing my signature, 3 kicks of Lee, 3 rapid kicks in succession, hitting their chest, knee, and temple. They crumpled to the ground, unable to rise. The entire confrontation lasted barely a minute, and all 5 fighters were subdued by me. A deathly silence fell over the warehouse. The members of the Black Tiger Gang stood frozen, unable to believe their eyes. Lei Shanhu's face turned ashen. He slammed the soul of martial arts plaque onto the ground. I'll deal with you myself. He assumed the opening stance of Black Tiger Fist, fists clenched, muscles taut, as he charged at me with a roar. His punches were immensely powerful, each one whistling through the air, clearly the result of decades of perfected hardstyle training. I didn't dare to underestimate him and focused my mind on the fight. Although his strikes were forceful, his movements were slightly slow and full of openings. Using Jeet Kune Do's principles of flexibility and speed, I evaded all his attacks while constantly seeking an opportunity to counter. As he threw a punch that missed, I seized the opening and delivered a straight punch to his chest. He staggered back several steps, his face turning crimson. Come again. Lei Shanhu roared, charging forward with even fiercer punches and kicks. I remained calm and composed, dodging and weaving, launching counterattacks at every opportunity. We exchanged blows for dozens of rounds, and gradually, Lei Shanhu began to tire. His breathing grew labored, and the speed of his fists slowed. I knew the moment had come. As he swung another punch, I sidestepped and kicked him sharply in the knee. He dropped to one knee. Before he could recover, I drove an elbow strike into his back, sending him crashing to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. You've lost, I said, standing over him, my voice calm. Lei Shanhu struggled to his feet, his eyes filled with disbelief and rage. Impossible. I've practiced Black Tiger Fist for 30 years. How could I lose to your unorthodox style? Kung Fu has no hierarchy, only suitability, I replied, picking up the soul of martial arts plaque from the ground. You are obsessed with the raw power of your forms, but you've ignored the essence of real combat. True martial arts is about adapting fluidly to your opponent, not clinging to rigid traditions. At that moment, the wail of police sirens echoed from outside the warehouse. Lei Shanhu's face turned deathly pale. He knew his end had come. Earlier, I had instructed Chunjun to call the police and gather evidence of the Black Tiger Gang's crimes. The police stormed in, arresting Lei Shanhu and all his men. Watching him being led away, I let out a deep breath and handed the Soul of Martial Arts plaque back to Chunjun. "It's yours again." Chunjun took the plaque, tears streaming down his face. "Xiaolong, thank you. Without you, Zhomi Martial Arts School would have been destroyed." The old master slowly recovered, and the Zhongyi school regained its former vitality. Once again, the shouts of disciples practicing at dawn echoed through the alleys of old Kowloon. On the day of my departure, Chunjun walked me to the pier. "Xiaolong, you've taught me that true martial arts isn't just about the power of fists and feet, it's about the justice in one's heart." I smiled. Cultivate virtue before martial skill, cultivate character before physical training. Fists are meant for protection, not for violence. That is the martial way I have always upheld. The boat slowly pulled away from the pier, the skyline of Kowloon fading into the distance. Standing on the deck, gazing out at the open sea, I thought of my days in the ice factory in Thailand, of Lei Shanhu's arrogance, and of those moments when I fought for justice. I knew my martial path was still long, and I would face many more challenges ahead, but I would never retreat. Because I firmly believe that as long as one holds justice in the heart and skill in the hands, one can protect those around them and banish darkness from every shadow. The essence of Jeet Kune Do lies not only in defeating an opponent, but in defeating oneself, not only in breaking the limitations of forms, but in upholding the boundaries of one's inner integrity.